I wouldn't be here today if I didn't meet that guy in the coffee shop 15 years ago. One of the comments that was made to us a few months back from one of the chief physiologists in the hospital was, it's like you put 500 physiologists in a room and delivered what they ask for. But basically what that will do is give cardiac clinicians the insight to see probability of patients having cardiac episodes. And in certain patients with CRT devices, which are the more complicated devices, we will be able to help predict heart failure in patients. I'm even getting goosebumps now thinking about it.
We can play some music over the end of this if you want. End credits music, Robert. Yeah, be patient but take your opportunities. I think that's what we're talking about here, right? Hi everyone, welcome to the Leaders Series podcast. We've got Robert Kelly from HRI, which is Heart Rhythm Ireland, a specialist in cardiac device management, and you will find out more about that, as well as Robert's very interesting journey to being a technology leader, and one which I certainly find very inspirational. So without further ado, here's Robert. Hi Robert, how are you today?
I'm good, David. I'm good. How are you?
Very well, yes, very well. Looking forward to this conversation. It's good to have you here, Robert from HRI, someone that we're speaking to in Dublin, as I've said already on the intro. Yeah, HRI stands for Heart Rhythm International. So I guess the best way to start, Robert, is just to tell us what that is and the great work that you do within the health and medical care industries.
Yeah, so we are a cardiac rhythm management platform. We founded about just over 15 years ago, and we built a cloud-based cardiac rhythm management platform back then, which was kind of unheard of in the health industry to have a cloud-based offering. So what we done was built a platform that clinicians use to track the data from an implant of a cardiac device like a pacemaker or ICD. And then they track the data on the device throughout the lifetime of that device. So overall, it could be a 10-year period that could be, and we give them all the tools to manage that and to generate reports. And we spent the first few years expanding across Ireland. So we got to a national level. We got full coverage across Ireland. And we have all cardiac hospitals in Ireland more or less using our platform at the minute. So.
Fantastic. And we've caught you at a very exciting time, haven't we, I think, for HRI, when the international expansion is happening and you're looking at different markets, but also I think the technology that you can use in some ways with AI and much stronger and more powerful ways of using data, it was almost caught up with you as well. So this is a kind of a golden moment in some ways for you.
Yeah,
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
no, it is. Timing is everything, I think, and as I said, we've been 15 years in the market, but that means we've been capturing data for 15 years. And with AI, and as you said, how it's advanced and the impact it can have now, having structured data built up over 15 years puts us in a really unique position to do some really interesting things, which we'll explore a bit more on the podcast here. So it's very exciting. And, the company was static for a good number of years. And now the last couple of years, rejuvenated, rebuilt, and are really ready to scale now internationally.
I think that's quite an interesting thing you say there, static, because I mean that comes into the whole history is written by the winners, right? You always hear about these amazing businesses doing amazing things, and you see this on social media, don't you? I know in my industry particularly, where everybody else seems to be absolutely flying.
Yeah.
But as you know, when you speak to them, it's never the case. So, and I know for myself within my own business that, you have such ups and downs, don't you? These are the things you deal with. So you mentioned they're static, which I guess still means you're still alive, still flowing. So how does that, when you say static, is that you being harsh on yourself, or it hasn't really kind of grown in the way? How do you deal with that? Because I think this is the Leaders Series, right? So being a leader when things are going well, and actually when things are going badly, like with COVID or something, it's almost I felt like I had to step up as a leader and it was easier. But when things are not really moving where you want them, how have you dealt with those challenges? Because I do think that's quite an interesting point.
Yeah, I've been looking at myself as a leader, as a entrepreneur, and trying to see, like what is different from what I do versus people who are more successful than me or not as successful and have failed. And I failed at a number of things as well. So I think the one of the things, and it's probably key, even more key in the health tech space,
Mm.
because things move at a certain space in healthcare, and I think one of the biggest things I've learned to be is patient, and
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's definitely something that is, it's not easy because you want things to move at a much quicker pace. You want more revenue streams. You want to be able to build your business, more clients. Your tech should be moving on at much faster than it is. And there's very few people are happy with the speed that things go at. And I think if you lose your patience, you'll make wrong decisions, and I think that's something I think I've learned to be very patient and not panic. I think you look back at what you've achieved to date, and you realize that you've got through a lot tougher times in the past. And I think when you know you can deal with things, it's easier to be patient, and you can see the opportunities easier and clearer. So I think that's the main thing.
And do you think, therefore, as the entrepreneur, as the leader, transferring that patience, transferring that positive mindset to the team, because sometimes they look to you to drive it, and when it's not where you want it to be, you have to make them feel the same, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Like there's a new enough guy has started working with us. He's quite a skills engineer, and he did. Like we ran into some problems, which everyone does. Developing stuff, trying to get it ready for a certain time, and said, "Why are you so calm?" Like, and I said, "Well, this is where we're at. This is we have a good team around us. Yes, we haven't delivered what we said we would deliver to ourselves at this time, but I would step back and look at it and see all the positives that have happened, and where some of the team might have been focusing just on, some of the negatives that were out there. And again, I think that goes back to the patience, like, and that short period of time where the scene where I didn't react, panic, or didn't have a negative response, like we got the thing sorted in no time after that, like. So I think and that goes back to having the clarity, having the ability to sit back and just look at the problem. Yeah, there's always issues that you'd rather you didn't have, but they're always going to be there. So it's just, well, new issues come, you get over the current ones, and you're always going to have some issues. And I think it's having the team around you, knowing that you can deal with those issues and reaffirming them. Yeah, we'll get over this, we'll get through this. And I think that's building that team, and that kind of environment within the team is really beneficial.
Yeah, I have noticed that myself. Sometimes your own point of view is magnified out, isn't it? It's something I have to work on quite a lot. My own, I'm quite a passionate, emotional person,
Yeah.
and what I find is when you run a business, pretty much something's always going wrong every day, isn't it? Always. You just sit there and something's going to happen. And I guess it's how you deal with that. Do you have this calmness, this patience? Because obviously your journey as an entrepreneur has led you in lots of different paths, and probably we'll touch on that a little bit. But is that things you've learned by making mistakes, or do you think that's kind of inherent within your own personality?
No, I probably, like, going back to the start. No, I would have been much more reactive to things that went wrong. You would be much more. You'd see maybe a competitor has done something, and you think, "Oh, that's it, we're done for." And in the early team, that's how we behaved, and I think it's just time that has taught me lessons, both in business and personal life. I think that they're always quite connected, but it's inside you might be feeling, yeah, this is frustrating, but if you let that out and the team sees that energy, the negative energy, it just has a detrimental impact on your business, on your team. So I work very hard on not letting that happen. I very rarely would panic, and I think it's people will panic in the team, but it's very quickly overcome. So
You sound like someone I should be calling up, Robert. I'd be calling you when I'm having my emotional days. So calm me
yeah,
down, Rob.
I think that's quite important. Like, I would have a couple of people that, who are not in my central team, but of people I would have trust in. And if I'm at that stage, I'll pick the phone up, and you'll talk through it, and you'll realize it's not that big of a problem. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is also very, very key to know that, because this is all driven, like you just mentioned there a few times about competitors, and I know the same thing. You know when you see a competitor doing something, when you get beaten to a deal or something like that, it hurts. Like it hurts in sport, like it hurts in your personal life. You come into business to be a winner, don't you? Generally, not to lose or not move forward. But then it's so interesting to see that you never really understand beneath another business, do you?
No,
When you see
never.
those wins, you think everything's perfect, but it's never as perfect, is it?
No, and that's something I've learned quite a lot as well. And like some of the other businesses I've worked in, I've had access into a lot of different businesses, and exactly what you're seeing there. On the outside, it looks like everything is great, but generally, generally they've all the same problems behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the other thing you mentioned there, which is really relevant actually, is sport, and what that teaches you as to lose and to work as a team. And I played a lot of sport over the years, and I would definitely attribute a lot of my skills and patience and being able to take a loss back to sport as well. So I think that's relevant to mention.
For our listeners, Rob, what's your sport of choice?
Yeah, so Ireland had a couple. So we play Gaelic football in Ireland. So we play, which is a tough enough sport. And then I played rugby later on in my career. So it was something I wish I had played earlier. But I think rugby is where I learned about a team really. Like every person can be the weak link on that field in a rugby team. It's the lessons you learn in rugby are spectacular for
Yeah,
business, I
and
think.
quite painful as well sometimes.
Yeah.
Physically painful, not just mentally painful. So tell us a bit about this journey that you've had. I'm interested for our listeners just to understand where you've come from. Obviously, you're in a very, very highly innovative area, but your journey into this area has not been the normal path trodden, I think. So tell us a bit about your background, Robert.
Yeah, so I grew up in working in my family business. My father was a butcher, had a butcher shop, small butcher shop. He's probably about 50 years in that business now today. So as long as I can remember, I'm probably talking 6, 7, 8. I was working in the butcher shop, weekends, summers, and done that for the next 10 years or so. Potentially was going to keep doing it, and then just had this urge to do something different. And but talk about the first part of it, that experience of a local butcher shop where the customer is everything. That service, the quality that's provided to the customer, and learning if something goes wrong and somebody has a bad experience with a product that you've sold them, how that was dealt with. And if you spoke to my team now, they'd ask, what's the one thing I probably would get agitated about it within the team? It's if we fall down on customer service. That's something I've brought through from those early days in a butcher shop to what I do with my customers now. So I think that's something I learned from my father for over those years. I then decided to done my leaving cert in Ireland. So I was quite young doing that. I was 16 doing that, and decided I didn't want to go to college or university. So I took up an apprenticeship as an electrician. So again, different from a butcher, but did like working with my hands, I always had an interest in technology. I know electrical was just a little bit different. It was something I wanted to learn more about. So I worked in both domestic and industrial, so quite a wide range of different areas within the electrical trade. And I done that for about 10 years as well. And during the latter few years of that, I started teaching myself how to program smart technology for hotels, houses, so lighting systems, heating systems, and nothing like a developer would be today or such. It was something again a little bit more technical than what I was doing on building sites and that. And
And would that set you apart then? So you starting to see how if I learnt these skills, this would set me apart from your average electrician.
Exactly. And so I was obviously like the construction industry, it goes up and down. People lose their jobs all the time or have to move. So I wanted to find something that you were always, have something different that you could offer. And then I had that entrepreneurial spirit in me, and I set up a business to actually supply those technologies to either direct to the customer or through a partners and that as well. But the crash came in 2006-7, when everything just really collapsed and the financial markets collapsed. Construction nearly disappeared overnight, and by chance somebody had come to say that there was an opportunity, or more or less that they should there should be a national registry built for cardiac device patients in Ireland. So completely off my radar about what it was. Um,
Was this just what, some walking on the road or something?
no,
Just like a friend at a dinner party or something? I don't know. It seems completely random.
it was one of the leading cardiac consultants had the idea. A guy called Joe Galvin, really good guy, and he became a champion internally for HRI in the health system in Ireland. And so we went to look to build a platform. And one of the key things we wanted to do was connect all the hospitals. So basically, a patient gets implanted in a hospital in Dublin, but they live in Cork, so they have to go back to Cork, and the hospital in Cork has to do the follow up on the patient, but they've no access to the data or the device that's implanted. So it could take a few weeks. They'll ring the hospitals, they'll get files transferred, and so on. So we went to a number of developers, universities, getting advice off people how we could build this system, and we were basically told, "Oh, we can't do it. It can't be done." And it seems strange in the technology we have today, but you're thinking back to 2007, 8 here. So there's a website called boards.ie in Ireland that would be used for putting up job adverts and stuff like that. And we put it up on that system, and we got a response from a guy, and he said he'd meet us in a coffee shop in Dublin. And went and met him, and he said, showed him what we wanted to do, and he said he could do it. And at the time we said, well, we only have €5,000 to build a prototype, and he said, yeah, I'll do that. So he was doing his PhD in Trinity College at the time. He was a Chinese guy who came over, and he's still working with me 15 years later. So it's been a phenomenal experience, and I'm extremely lucky to have the likes of him, to be able to bring my ideas to, and that he can turn them into reality through technology. So he's a fantastic guy, Dr. Yang Chen. So he's been my core kind of partner in business over those years, and we've built out the team since that. So he built that system, and I was obviously quite green in the health space back then. Didn't really know much about cloud computing at the time, obviously.
I mean, just to wind back, you were completely green in health space at that point. So at some point, like, because you're almost like in not only being entrepreneurial within your own industry. So if you'd gone into IT systems in hotels, that would kind of make more sense, right? But it's a total left field. So at some point, we talked here about patience, but we also talked about seizing an opportunity. So at some point you heard that. What switched within your brain then to think, well, actually, I could do that. There's a gap in the market and I could fill that gap.
Yeah, I suppose it's more the opportunity. Like as I said, everything else had collapsed around us, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you kind of say, right, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to learn pretty quickly about what I'm doing, right? I think that's another thing. Like I try and step out of my comfort zone all the time. I've had to do it over the last couple of years. Again, when we rebuilt HRI from a technology point of view as well. So I think it's something. If I'm comfortable, I feel there's something not right, basically. So I like to be able to get myself into uncomfortable positions that I can learn, and I think that's a big thing about building your character, building who you are as an entrepreneur, is being able to actually get out of those comfortable positions. And it's one of the things that drives innovation forward from my point of view.
So yeah, we were talking about taking that kind of opportunity, and moving into that, and basically kind of learning, stepping out of your comfort zone. So you like to kind of step out of your comfort zone within
Yeah,
businesses.
I like to step out of my comfort zone. I think it's, as I said, when I get comfortable, I feel like I'm not moving forward, and I think that's something I think is a good thing. It can be stressful, but it's a good thing. I think it's something I do enjoy, that kind of challenge of upskilling and learning new things. So, when I started in this, so I started visiting hospitals for about 4 years. I built the business. I was on the road visiting hospitals, young company, a group of people, very much like again, I talked about the trust of the stakeholders, before, and building trust was hard in the initial few years. I was in my mid to late 20s, had no background in the area, and people were saying, "We'll always be around if we invest, as in put our time into using your platform. Will you be around in 2 or 3 years' time?" And you have to get people to trust that you will, and you're committed. And anyway, 4 years, probably 4 to 4.5 years, we got national coverage with the platform. So our business model was different, as in we didn't charge the hospitals for using our software. And we knew if we did go down that route initially, we would never have gotten to national coverage because it just wouldn't have happened. And so we come up with other ways of generating revenue. We build partnerships with the device manufacturers, so Medtronic, Boston Scientific, Abbott, and we built some patient services in as well. So we have those three key stakeholders as our clients. So we have the hospital clinicians, we have the manufacturers, and we have the patients, and that gives us a very unique approach to the market. None of our competitors are in that space. They'll either all be just directly with the hospitals. We bring something really valuable to the cardiac device market, and that's something I'm excited about scaling internationally now as well.
And how do you kind of continue to, because all leaders have these stakeholders, investors, clients, customers, employees. How do you continue to build that trust when you're trying to innovate and continue to drive the product forward, and you're trying to step out of your own comfort zone? How do you make sure you can bring people along with you?
I think communication is a big thing, right? So I think when we rebuilt the platform, maybe I'll finish my journey first because I think we're jumping into something that probably is linked back to that. So the first 4.5 years, as I said, I built this business, but I had some ideas for other businesses at the time as well. So me and Young Chen, who I mentioned, we founded another company called Con Digital. So it was a digital marketing software company. So we come up with the idea that the integrating data across social media. So this was in the early days when Facebook was just starting to become really popular, or Twitter was on the scene. Google advertising was obviously there. So it was looking at the social media data. It was looking at the paid advertising data, and it was tracking the impact on SEO performance, website activity, conversions on websites. So we built a platform to allow clients to manage all of that. So we publish all the social media through our platform. We would then track all the data from engagement with those organic posts, build audiences that would be highly targeted for advertising, and then track the impact on sales, engagement on website, SEO performance. So really innovating there as well. And we probably were a little bit of ahead of our time with our product, and it was hard to get people to understand, who are still struggling just with it to cope with just a social media post. It was we were quite successful. We built that business across Europe and the US, and COVID came and wiped us out basically. We lost 80% plus of our business overnight when COVID hit. Everyone pulled budgets everywhere. And we obviously everyone had challenging times in COVID, and we sat back and we said, right, we can rebuild this. So we're rebuilding, and everything had changed. In a lot of teams built in-house marketing teams because of COVID. There was a lot of stuff happened there. So as I said earlier, the HRI was static. It was just ticking along. It
Right.
was run.
Okay.
But again, timing is everything. And with the technologies that was emerging with AI, I had seen the data we had built over the 15 years from all the cardiac device data, which is one of the biggest cardiac device databases globally now across all manufacturers. Again, I seen the opportunity to go back in, but I did understand that there had to be a big redesign and development of our technology, because what was there wasn't scalable. What we had built back in 2009, 10 was still the same technology we were using, a few years ago. So we got a partnership with IBM a couple of years ago, a business partnership, and we rebuilt our whole technology stack on IBM. Key things were security, right? So that was a thing. I'm talking now about the trust with stakeholders, right? So rebuilding our platform, I wanted to really, not that the trust had gone, but it probably was, there's nothing really innovating here. It's not moving on. There was competitors sticking their feet in the market, things like that. So the trust was a big thing with the stakeholders, and security, obviously, with everything that's changing from cybersecurity, dealing with healthcare records. It's all obviously extremely important from regulation point of view, security. So IBM had a big impact on bringing that knowledge in-house to us as well, and we worked closely with their build teams to do that. We also wanted to make sure it was extremely scalable, because we have ambitions to become a global cardiac device management platform, and so scalability was another key thing. So I spent another long time going around the hospitals, and this is around the trust and communication as well. So started communicating what I wanted to bring to the table, what I wanted to develop, listen to feedback from a number of different kind of key players in the marketplace, kind of leading physiologists, consultants, getting input from what would they want to see in a platform platform in 2024, 2025 that would really change their lives and change the lives of patients. So I think that's really important from stakeholders, from building trust. And one of the comments that was made to us a few months back from one of the kind of chief physiologists in the hospital was, we had just demoed the platform to her, and she just said it's like you put 500 physiologists in the room and delivered what they asked for, like, and that was a really, really good confidence booster that we were delivering something that was going to be really impactful for the sector. So
And I guess like they stuck while the business was static, those it was still delivering to customers, right? So it was they must have stuck with you, I guess, because it is a good product. It just needed kind of redeveloping and refining.
yeah, exactly. So there's the thing where people like what they're used to, and when we change things up, there was some challenges around that as well, right? Because nobody likes a different color of a platform. They're used to what we found was, as we're transitioning hospitals onto the new platform, they are it takes them 2 or 3 days, and we don't want to go back. This is the way forward. So there's that challenge for innovation, and again, communicating, building that trust with them that this is going to really improve their day-to-day operations within the clinics, and the same for the manufacturers that we provide services to as well. So everything before that was all kind of paper based. We'd give them data to be looking to maybe track a device, and they'll come to us, and because of a field safety notice or something like that. So it was all kind of done kind of manually, but we rebuilt the platform and give them a portal to be able to do that through electronically themselves. And that's something that's not available to them anywhere else globally as well. So that helps us build our relationships further with the manufacturers, and hopefully let us break into new markets and build relationships with them there as well. The other key thing from this is patient safety. So there's a lot of regulations in health tech and healthcare, and one of them is the MDR European regulations around traceability of class 3 medical devices. So with this in mind, when we were rebuilding our platform, we wanted to ensure that data was being captured was accurate, it could be automated, and we built that technology, barcode scanning, traceability, into our new system, and we help hospitals be compliant with those regulations now. So we take a big burden off them there, and the manufacturers also have obligations for traceability as well. So in the portal we give them, they can log a field safety notice, which means there might be a problem with a batch of devices that they need to go and check them, and their system will automatically flag all those patients across all the hospitals, so it's instantly done. It could take weeks or months maybe to do that previously. So
Yeah. Do you working within this industry, and obviously you've worked in a few, worked as an electrician, worked with like IT systems in hotels, you've done digital media. Does this give you a sense of pride? And do you sometimes, working within health tech, does it give you a sense of pride? And do you ever get kind of stories where actually using the HRI system, this has happened? Is that something that really drives you forward in the team?
it is. It's probably like, as you said, there are other things that you work on, and yeah, you're building things. It's exciting, but this is definitely different. And the patients are obviously a big part of what we do as well. And some of the AI technology we're building into our platform and to what we're providing the patients is actually going to change people's lives dramatically, and we're going to be able to predict. Going to be a lot more of a instead of reacting to a problem with a patient, we're going to be able to give clinicians the data and the insights to proactively care for the patients without patients getting to a level where they're in trouble. So that's quite exciting, and it does drive us on, and it's a different feeling from other businesses that we've worked on and built. So I think that's what you're asking, and yeah, there's a big difference in this industry.
And how do you feel that AI is such a huge word, and since we've been doing this podcast, it's become more and more prevalent within the industry, and people thinking about solutions, people thinking about uses in terms of how it can be used. How do you think, and how do you think it's going to transform the HRI product? So that's going to transform patient care, particularly around cardiac problems.
Yeah, it's nearly a little bit annoying how much the AI is being used, the word has been used and thrown in every industry, and every possible piece of tech has AI attached to it now, right? So it's
Even recruitment, Robert. They're even saying, well, they don't even need recruiters anymore. Just the bots will find you the people. So
yeah, I think it is quite relevant for recruitment, but I think there's a lot of industries where it's been overhyped, right? So so in saying that, I think healthcare is probably one of the top industries that it can have a massive impact in, right? And the issue that people will face with AI and health tech is having structural data, digitized data to actually use within AI within. So I think we are quite lucky that we have 15 years of digital data across over 100,000 cardiac devices, and we've done close to 1 million follow-ups on patients across that period. A significant amount of structured data. So we're using AI in a number of well, we're working on using it in a number of ways. One of the ones, we're just part of a European, which started a European project called Caramel, which is building AI predictive models for cardiac patients, and that's just kicked off a couple of weeks ago. So we've a number of years ahead to build out that technology. But basically, what that will do is give cardiac clinicians the insight to see in real time the probability of patients having cardiac episodes, and in certain patients with CRT devices, which are the more complicated devices, we will be able to help predict heart failure in patients. And when you see what
and is
potential
that suggest? Sorry, just to cut in. Is that? I mean, you can predict if someone's got a pacemaker that they might have a problem with the heart. Are we talking about? We think in the next few days, just due to the patterns of your heart, we think that you might have a problem, so you need to go
yeah,
to the hospital.
exactly, yeah. Are we
Not like you're an unhealthy person. You know, you've got cardiac problems. So at some point, it's that pinpoint. You know, it's
Yeah, so patients who have the devices already have problems, right? So they're yeah, but that doesn't mean they're not going to have worse problems, or they're going to have heart failure. So the goal is to avoid the patient going to heart failure. So being able to actually prevent that from happening, which once the data is there and can be analyzed, that's extremely doable. And the clinicians could do that if they could look at all the data, over all the trends that are coming in, but that's not possible, right? Everyone's extremely busy, don't have the time to do it, and so with AI, I think that can change big time. So the other thing is, so we've developed a patient app for, they have to carry a device ID with them, so they have to have identification about the device that's implanted, and the critical information about that device is on that ID, and that in most countries it's an A4 page. So we've been giving them a credit card style ID card for 15 years now, but we've now put that into a digital version. But with that, we're putting in a number of AI pieces as well. So patients get very anxious and stressed about having a device implanted and have lots of simple questions that they can't get answers to easily. So we're going to build in there IBM Watson X AI assistant in there that we're going to be able to give them 24/7 support to answer those general questions about the device. And that could be something as simple as, can I go swimming, or can I exercise in this way or that way, and things like that people get stressed about. Or a big one is, if a patient is traveling through an airport, they can't go through a metal detector, and things like that. So a lot of questions around that. The other piece we're doing, and it's linked with our AI predictive modeling, is that we are going to be able to monitor the patient through their wearable technology. So the data we can pull in from their wearable tech into the app as well, and we can layer that with the data we have from the hospital, and give us another layer of data, so we're going to be able to get daily information from the patient.
so that's from like your Apple Watch or something
Yeah,
like that. Right.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So so there's a number of things we're looking at there, we're actively working on to build those technologies and offer them. So we have an exciting couple of years ahead in the AI space, which is really good.
And do you I mean, we talked at the start about, the business that you have, and seeing competitors doing better, and then we've also talked there about the health tech industry, which obviously has an ethically good, like, we're trying to help people here. Did you, do you ever struggle to balance that, like, building this business? We're going to talk a little bit about international expansion, etc., the normal side of let's make as much profit as possible, etc., with the, this is a healthcare business.
Yeah, and I think that's something you obviously always think about, right? And in health tech, you have to be very careful about how you position your business from, innovation. Obviously, as a leader, you want to innovate, but you also have to keep grounded about, are you building something something that really benefits the stakeholders. And again, that comes back to building that trust. We won't just go and build something because we want to build it or we think it's just going to be something great. We would only build it as long as the stakeholders have given us the green the indications that this is something that would be really beneficial to them. So a lot we would get hundreds of calls from patients every month. Hundreds of them would ring asking questions. A lot of them would ask about, is there an app available? So building technology on the back of what the market wants, just making it really really good. And because we deal with the three stakeholders, we don't have any competitors doing that at the minute. And obviously that can change very quickly, but none of our competitors would have 15 years of cardiac device data. So yeah, we're in a really interesting position there. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff we've learned from the hospitals over the last couple of years that's given us a really interesting product roadmap ahead and what we're going to build. So yeah, it's nice to not to be scrambling trying to figure out what to build. We have a really good idea of what we need to build and what's going to have the biggest impact for the three stakeholders.
And now that you're in a strong position, within your home market, as it were, within the Irish market, we've spoken, and obviously you're looking at kind of international growth, the UK, the US, and beyond. And you would think that this is such a fantastic product, and you've got such, it would be quite, not, well, it'd be quite easy, it's a quite easy sell. What are the challenges that you're seeing as you go to a new market, let's say, somewhere in Europe or something like that?
Yeah, I think regulation's a big one, right? That's a big one where we obviously are building our platform here to be compliant with EU regulations, which is quite a high bar to meet, right? So, but that doesn't mean that other markets don't have different regulations, and they all do. So you have to get certified for a number of different things within each of those markets. So it's probably a part of the team we're going to have to build out that really focuses just solely on that, because we're still quite a small team, and there's a lot of growth to happen in our team over the next couple of years. So that's a challenge. The other one is come back to trust, right? So entering new markets, we have to build trust from the ground up in those markets as well. So a lot of our strategy will be around finding partners in new markets that have that trust partially built up already, and that we can go in, build relationships with those partners, and then get access to the clients in the markets that we need as well. So, and then you have your team as well. So like it's quite important to have feet on the ground in new markets as well. So building that team to, I suppose, be able to work with the team we've built here and how we work here in Ireland. We are quite spread out, like, so we're quite a dynamic team, like, so we have an office and a small part of the team work in the office, but another part of the team will just be working remotely a lot, will come in whenever it's needed. And then we have some international outsourcing as well that we've been working with for 15 years as well. So we are able to scale up our development quite quickly, but as we build our team internationally now, that's going to be a big challenge as well.
But can you set big dreams? Do you, I mean, when you think about it, like, my product does something that I don't think any other product does, so therefore I could be the global number one leader in cardiac device management. Is that something you think for me as a recruiter, I'm thinking, is it ever going to be possible to be the number one technology recruiter in the whole world? But for yourself, it feels like it's an achievable dream, right?
Yeah, and that is the dream. Like, there's 15 million plus patients with cardiac devices globally, and we would love to put that cardiac device ID app in the hands of as many of them as possible. And I think there's a lot of regulations coming from Europe on what medical records and the ability to transfer medical records from a patient, that they can take their medical records and move wherever. So we already do a lot of that with patients. So if a patient that's one of our members goes on holidays to Spain, and something happens, then we give them the ability to give temporary access to those hospitals in other countries and to access their critical information. So that transfer of data. So I feel like we're leading the way in a lot of different areas. I think most of our competitors are not a cloud-based platform. They got the scalability that we have. They don't work with the three stakeholders. So what you're saying is really really relevant, and I think I probably will see it as a failure if I don't get that global elite level and be that global recognized number one provider of those areas because we're positioned to do it, and that is my big goal is to do that. So
Well, I'm a big cheerleader now, Robert. So I'm there with you along the way, And you've shown the patience, as we already talked about.
yeah, yeah.
When you look back on, working in the butcher shop and, deliver as an electrician, and these are different sorts of backgrounds, just to kind of double down, like different sorts of backgrounds to these people we usually speak to on the Leader Series, right? So there'll be someone listening to this and they're an electrician in their mid-20s, what is the best advice that you can give them to say, if you want to develop a world-leading technology firm, it is possible. What's the best advice that you can give them?
Yeah, so I suppose the first thing is if you see an opportunity and you have the drive, you go at it, right? Because you will learn, you will make lots of mistakes, but you will learn how to overcome them. And I think so there's the opportunity. So if there's an opportunity and you have the drive to do it, then I think you go at it. Then there's the bit we go back to the patience, like it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long, long time. And I suppose sometimes I kind of say an entrepreneur probably shouldn't know the challenges ahead because they probably wouldn't do what they want, what they should be doing. Like you'll probably think that's going to be too hard, but it's those you spoke about before, those bad periods where things aren't going well, and how you feel in those periods compared to when things go well and you actually meet goals and you make things happen. That feeling completely outweighs the bad feeling of not getting things done, so there's massive rewards if you can go at it and do it. Yeah, so the opportunity, sticking at it, being gritty, not giving up at the first challenge that comes your way, or the first problem, and then just building that team around you, because I wouldn't be here today if I didn't meet that guy in the coffee shop 15 years ago, so it's finding those team partners to, if you're not technical, find somebody you can work with who is technical, like, and they're the kind of core bits that you need to get moving, and then everything else builds around it, I think so.
I think it's a really inspiring story. I think it's something that in Dublin we do quite a lot of work with Fit. I think there might be a podcast coming up which is all about helping people to get into technology. We've done a number of different. There's so many charities and works like that, but this is the sort of thing that people can look at and say, this is actually possible. If you didn't do a computer science degree, if you didn't, you know, pass all of your hires or whatever and get straight A's all the way. If you see the opportunity and work in the right ways and work with the right people, you can get into a really strong place in technology. And I think that's part of the kind of the problem of society sometimes, is people just believe they're in that path and it's set, right?
Yeah, and just to give you an example of that, so one of our guys in the team, Mark, he's working with us over 10 years, okay, and he came in as an office administrator, and he answered the phones to patients, he answered the phone to hospitals, he done all that type of work for a number of years, but he had a want to become an engineer.
Mm.
So he done his evening courses in computer science. And when I come back into the business fully from the other business, he was kind of in two minds. He wanted to maybe spread his wings and go and I said, well, look, Mark, I really think you know a lot about this business. You've been in the back room listening to all the problems of patients, of hospitals, and you've a real interest in doing your computer science and developing that. So I think you're in a really good position in this company if you stick with it. And I think there was nobody better positioned to develop to work on a new platform. So he's now an exceptional front end
Oh,
developer,
brilliant.
and he knows our customer inside out. So like things happen so quickly because of his knowledge from what he done before that, right? So if you're somebody in that fit and you have worked in an industry and you know there's problems in it and you want to develop into an engineer, there's nobody better positioned to do it than you, because you know exactly what's needed, like, and I think that's a really great way to go about things.
Well, I hope he listens to this podcast so you can see we've bigged him up on the podcast.
Yeah,
Here's a
yeah.
shout out to Mark. But no, like I said, I think, yeah, be patient but take your opportunities. I think that's what we're talking about here, right? And as my final question to you, Rob, what excites you about the coming years for HRI and for what you can do with the business?
Yeah, like it's I'm even getting goosebumps now thinking about really about the opportunity. Like that's out there.
We can play some music over the end of this if you want. Like really inspiring kind of end credits music, Robert. You know?
Yeah. Like as I said, like I've been excited in other businesses and building things, but like where we're positioned now, and even like when I was at that kickoff meeting for the European research project, that's happened. There's 25 different partners in that consortium. Like the technology we're building, and like it's not that it's 10 years down the road. We're talking 18 months, like the difference that's going to make to people's lives, patients, like the difference going to make to them, but also how we're going to improve the actual healthcare systems and clinicians' lives as well. Like, and it's a massive driver for me. Yes, hopefully we make money in doing in the process. Like, and but if you can combine those things together, the rewards are great. So
It's a perfect storm. I will definitely put end music credits over that. I think my video editing guy put some reverb on that, all that sort of stuff. So, Robert, it's been great to speak to you. Thank you very much for your time today, and good luck with HRI. And I hope for those listening that that take this as as an inspiration, as I do. You can build a fantastic career in technology as a leader from all sorts of backgrounds, and I think that's a really key message to take away. Thank you, Robert.
thanks, David.
Thank you.